Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I am McSnazzy and we are back in Planet Zoo once again today doing our Ranger Park Zoo project again. We're adding yet another build to it. We are in episode 11 now of the series and I'm super excited to bring this one to you because I'm really happy with how it turned out. I really enjoy what it adds to the zoo. So if you haven't seen any episodes before this, 1 through 10, since this is episode 11, in the top right corner now there will be a playlist that you can click on to see any episode you missed. Or if you haven't seen any, you might as well start from the beginning and see this zoo grow from the very start. Now, if time-lapse is not your thing as well, there is a timestamp in the description below that you can click on if you want to go straight to the real-time walkthrough of the finished product of this build. That is a lot shorter than watching all the time-lapse, so if you're not interested in watching that, click it down below as well. Alright, so now that we're into the time-lapse portion of the video, I want to say how excited I am to bring this episode to you guys. This is a super cool little charming build that kind of elevates the zoo into a realistic direction, along with having something that's kind of fun as well. We are doing a tortoise house in this episode, if you haven't already guessed, or you probably saw from the thumbnail and the name of the video, but super exciting to do. I'm really excited to show you guys this build because it was a lot of fun to do. I tried to make it a lot more in scale than a lot of the buildings we have so far in the zoo. Since Planet Zoo kind of forces you to make things that are like super big and out of scale for the little guests that they have in the game, I sunk this down a little bit. It's a lot more in scale, smaller building, just something that seems a little bit more realistic. So it's a really fun build and just kind of adds a bit of charm to this area. So we are building it right next to the education center right there. What I wanted to do for this was I wanted to do an indoor-outdoor area for both of the tortoise species we do have in Planet Zoo, which is the Aldabra tortoise and the Galapagos tortoise. And luckily for me, tortoises really do not need a lot of space. So we were able to do a small sort of indoor area with a medium-sized outdoor area, and they are perfectly happy. It's a great size for them. A little more in scale for the zoo, for the characters. Well, the little guests, the peeps, whatever you want to call them. It's a little more in scale for them, and it helps us fill up this little area that I sort of carved out last episode with the paths next to the education center before it starts into a bunch of other themed zones with a bunch of, bigger species animals, a lot bigger exhibits and everything. So this is sort of another smaller sort of warm-up animal right next to the education center. If maybe you're waiting for something to go down in the education center, like you're waiting for the movie to start, you can wait outside, look at the tortoises. It's just a nice little thing, and it's something I don't think I've seen anyone else do in Planet Zoo yet. I mean, I'm probably wrong. I'm sure everyone's done everything by now. It's almost been out for like half a year, so a lot of the ideas, and this seems like a pretty typical idea, but I don't think I've seen anyone do it yet necessarily. At least I don't have any reference builds to go off of, so I kind of just did this one, off the top of my head, and I really like how it turns out. It's a nice little building. We had a lot of natural light with a lot of the window pieces that we have now in the game from I believe we got it with the South American DLC. I don't know if it was in them necessarily, or if it was more of like with the free update with the South America DLC, but we use a lot of those glass pieces that we do get now, and it really elevates the build, makes it look a lot better. I'm really happy with how charming and little it is, but it also has like a lot of natural light for the tortoises, so it feels like it's daytime or nighttime, whatever time it is, they know what it is even if they're in the indoor area, so I think it works out really well. So let's talk about a little bit what's going on screen now that we've sort of done the overview. Right now I am starting to do the windows. I wanted to do sort of like these upper windows because tortoises like their spaces defined. When you have tortoises, whether it's like a pet in real life or just in general, you sort of make it so they have hard surfaces that they cannot see through as sort of their boundaries. For them, because it's a lot better for them in terms of learning. They don't want to see through like with glass or something, because they'll try to go through it and it'll stress them out, stuff like that. So It's perfect for what we did here. So I wanted to do the windows above so we get a lot of natural light coming in here. It's a nice little like open area. You know, you're not doing anything too crazy with this tortoise house. It's just kind of a little building you made to house the tortoises, but also people can walk through it so they can see the inside as well. If maybe the tortoises are sleeping, they want to see a tortoise sleeping, something like that. But they do have their indoor outdoor areas with those little holes in the wall. You can kind of see right now that the tortoises can walk through. They're just big enough for them, but it's not like super intrusive like a doorway. So it's pretty cool. I really like how it turned out. It's really a nice little charming build. So what I wanted to do here was do a little bit of a different build style than we've been doing. So I went for this sort of bland plaster, and then I colored it this sort of like yellow beigey. It's sort of like a western sort of color. Maybe like a Pueblo or something out of Mexico that you'd see here, sort of that sort of architecture, but with the wood trim, of course, I think makes it look a lot better and put together. And for the future, I kind of want to do some more smaller builds like this. I know it's not super duper exciting to see necessarily, like the final product looks good, but it's nothing crazy like the Bengal tiger habitat or the lion's den or the savannah safari, something that is like big and grand and super cool with like a big animal and lots of money looks like it was put into it if you're sort of going for that realism, like role-playing sort of thing in that way. But for this, it's just like a little charming habitat. It adds that sense of realism that, hey, it's just like, you know, they have tortoises, so they just want to put a little thing down for them. It's nothing crazy. It's not like it's super super big budget, super expensive to do something like that. It's like, hey, it's a zoo. We want to educate people on tortoises, all kinds of species. You know, we have a butterfly house, we have a tortoise house. It's just one of those things that sort of adds a lot to the zoo. And luckily we have tortoises in the zoo. We don't have butterflies, so that doesn't work. I know a lot of zoos have like aviaries with birds in them, like parrots, stuff like that. Sadly, we don't have that in the game either, but I feel like that'd be really hard to do from a game making standpoint, so I'm not upset by it. I'm just saying that it's sort of the way that I'm going for here. It adds a lot to your build, adds that realism, because you see a bunch of these little like areas throughout zoos, like something like that. In my zoo, we have like my local zoo in real life. There's the aviary, there's the butterfly house, stuff like that. But there's also like these little things at the beginning of the zoo that are just kind of there, like an otter house. It's like the smallest building ever, and the otters just have this like little pond area that you can sometimes see them if they're like by the glass where the house is. But a lot of the times they're just back in the pond chilling, and it's just stuff like that that really pounds out the realism to me, makes it feel like it's a real zoo. And for this project, I wanted to go above and beyond in that sense. So I think this tortoise house accomplishes that, and I hope you guys agree with that too. But that's why I also want to add some more stuff like this as well, like an otter house, even though we don't have otters, you know, little buildings throughout. And I don't know if I'll necessarily make videos on all this. This may be sort of things we can do on stream. That'd be a lot better to do on stream because it's not like something super cool that people are going to want to come watch. It's just something you'd maybe want to see, and it's like, oh, that's a cool idea. That's something I'd like to add to my zoo. But, you know, it's not something that you're going to come to a video just to see this revolutionary otter house or bird house aviary sort of thing. So that's more of where I was going with this, and I think we can litter more of these throughout the zoo in order to elevate the realism of the zoo and fill up the spaces where there's not a bunch of like big enclosures or buildings with like food shops and etc. So here on the screen, we'll start talking about this again. I know I went off on a tangent like usual, but you know, it's just fun to talk about that stuff. But we're gonna do sort of this custom sunroof. I'm really happy with how this turned out. These glass pieces that we have in the game now are fantastic. They're so helpful. It looks a lot better than the gridded pieces, like those wall pieces. We've used them, like the greenhouse pieces that are on the grid and they're like glass walls. Those aren't as good as these. These you can make them custom like this. We're using the roof trim to just make it look like it's made to be there. It's supposed to be like that. We don't have to build it on a grid, which, you know, elevates the creativity. It makes it a lot better. And we did that with the below while I was blabbing there. We did the glass above the walls there. So Yeah, I really like those glass pieces. But here we're gonna start doing the outline of the outdoor area for the tortoises. I end up just using the whole area. I'm gonna butt it right up to the path. You don't see that on screen because I didn't want to add a whole lot of me doing this wall work, because there's already a little bit of a long video for such a small build. But we did do 2 animals, so I guess you could consider it to be more of a bigger build because we did 2 animals, but not getting technical like that. This little wall is just perfect for the tortoises. It matches the theme of the building, and luckily we're able to do it throughout. Instead of using the barriers like we use all the time and lowering them low, it just looks a little better this way, a little bit more in theme. And I just like how it turns out. It looks good, it looks realistic, and it allows us to sort of make this like, hey, it's just this little area that it's like a stop. Like a little stop on your way through the zoo. It's not something you're like searching out for. Like say, the lion exhibit is sort of like a big thing. You're going to go straight back to the lion exhibit if you're big into lions. Like that's a big thing for you if you're visiting a zoo. But this is just one of those things that's sort of just littered out there throughout the zoo that you just stop at on your way to something else. And you're just like, hey, that's cool. You know, I just want to stop and see this. It looks cool. It's just sort of a smaller thing. But now we're going to add a lot of the vegetation and all this, the enrichment items for the tortoises and sort of the rock work and everything. And it was a lot of fun to do this one. Sadly, they don't like a lot of vegetation, but doing enough vegetation to where it looks good and where we're blocking out a lot of those extra viewpoints of the tortoises. So they have some places where they're not getting seen by the guests, so you're only getting seen in the certain areas, not on that main path, stuff like that. And in these back little corners, I wanted to add their beds because it just kind of fits next to where we add the staff entrance to the exhibits. And you know, they're small animals. They don't really need a lot of space, so it's not a big area to decorate like with the Bengal tiger habitat, which was really fun to make with all the vegetation, the big river and the waterfall and all that. But this is just a little more quaint, just a little tiny little corral. It's like you're going to like a petting zoo or something, and the little animals are in their small enclosures, and it's just, they're pretty boring in there. So and to capture that realism, that's what I kind of went through here. We do a lot of vegetation that they do enjoy, you know. We make the areas look nice. We break up the monotony and the boringness of the sort of tortoise house, because it's kind of just a bland structure. But you know, that's what I'm going for, realism sort of style. And I think it looks good. We're going to add a lot of these bigger trees in the area just to sort of break this up. Makes it look a lot nicer, a little bit more lush, and yeah, that's about it. It's just how we sort of vegetate areas where the animals don't like a lot of vegetation, but you still got to make it look natural. Even if it's a small area like this, you still got to find ways to make it look good. And for this, you know, I just add a lot of trees on the outskirts of the habitat and a lot of bushes out there too, just using a bunch of different pieces in order to make it look more natural, like it grows there. And then the rock work just makes it look a lot better. This is the first time we're using actual rocks for the biome and region that the animals are from. I just always stick with the temperate rocks because I feel like that's more natural and realistic, because the zoo is set in the Midwest, the United States, where it is the temperate biome. But for this tortoise house, I kind of wanted to use the tropical rocks because that's what they're used to, and I feel like it wouldn't be a big burden for the zoo to pay for tropical rocks for such a small exhibit. So I thought it sort of fit there. You know, I feel like they could buy a, you know, like a truckload of tropical rocks just for the tortoise house, because they're such a small animal. It doesn't need a lot of area. We're not covering, you know, fake mountains with these rocks and stuff like that, like we are for the Bengal tigers and the lions and animals like that, and the bears coming up. They're definitely going to have a lot of mountains with these rocks. So from a realistic standpoint, I think it works. So that's about all I have to say about this video until we get into the real-time portion. So from here on out, I'm just going to turn up the music. There's really only like another minute of time-lapse if you want to stick around and watch it. It's just me doing the vegetation and rock work for this side of the habitat where the Galapagos tortoises are. If you want to stay that, keep watching, but if not, again, in the description below there's a timestamp. You just click on it, it'll take you right to the beginning of me talking about everything in real time and showing you in first person with all that jazz and all that fun stuff. So I'll see you guys in a second. Alright everyone, we are now back in the real-time portion of the video, and I am over here at the education center we made in the last episode, and let's go check out the tortoise house right this way. I had a lot of fun building this project, and I think it turned out great. It's so nice and charming, and just a cute, quaint little addition to this like main drag here right by the education center. So off camera I added some benches and these education sort of pavilions that we've been adding throughout where we've needed space. Put some plants in these planters out front in this mulch. I did this sign here with Ricey's great Berlin front that we've been using throughout the zoo that I really enjoy, and it really makes the front look a lot better. I also made this little art-shaped tortoise here. I tried to keep with the whole black and white feel. So I didn't want to go for a super colorful tortoise because it wouldn't really fit in with the building style, so to say. But I think it turns out great. It looks super nice. I'm really happy with how it turned out. We have the little air conditioning units on top to cover up the outcropping of that inside stuff. I think I put that off of the time lapse so you didn't see that. But let's go inside first and then we'll check out the outside. So right through here you're going to get a couple staff doors. Now these are for the staff entrances to the habitats, and that's why those are there. But I think it looks great. It's just like a little building, just a little tortoise house, and they're all just sitting here, and I don't know why they won't go outside yet, but they're making their way. They're slow animals, so of course they're going to take their time, but they have everything they need in here, and it's really just a small indoor space for them to go in the winter. And I love this skylight that we made here as well. With the glass pieces. It's custom and it looks great, adds a little bit of light into here for the tortoises. And the nice part about this, having these little tortoise doors, is that they can go outside. It looks pretty realistic and everything. And they have an indoor-outdoor space, so when it's the winter, when they need to nap, they can go nap indoors. Because tortoises don't really need a whole lot of fancy indoor areas. They just need kind of a little burrow area where they can just kind of chill and sleep, because they're pretty basic. They just kind of lay there and sleep. Nothing crazy. I wanted to add a little bit of education inside here, even though there's not a ton of space to do it, because I wanted to keep this building in scale. A lot of the buildings in this game, kind of Frontier, who makes Planet Zoo, they kind of force you to go out of scale. So like a 4-meter high building is way taller than any guest. So this is even sunk down from 4 meters. I don't even know if this goes all the way up to 4 meters with the pieces I used. I think I sunk them a little in the ground. But anyway, I wanted to add some of this education art in here so they can learn a little bit over in these areas where we have, you know, extra beds and rocks. But I really like the look of this building, something a little different than we've been doing so far with the beige and sort of the yellow tints here. We kind of have a lot of grays throughout the park and a lot of wood color pieces and buildings, and sort of this kind of fits. It's a cute, quaint little place with these nice borders, like the wood borders along this plaster. I think looks really good, especially with the skylight. But let's check out the tortoise exhibits outside, and then we'll talk a little bit about future plans from here, like we always do towards the end of the video. So here's a nice view. We got some education boards out here, of course, and the tortoises are just chilling by that sprinkler. This guy's just laying. And tortoises don't do a whole lot. They just kind of walk around and eat and lay down, and they're pretty slow, but not as slow as you might think. They're pretty cool creatures, and I wanted to build them a nice little house. It's just a nice, refreshing build that I think elevates the zoo a lot, adds a little bit more charm to it, because we're not it's more realistic this way. We're not doing just a bunch of big animals all the time. We step back and make sort of this realistic looking area that, you know, the zoo would definitely have a tortoise house. I love turtles and tortoises, so, you know, doing the tortoise house was a no-brainer for me, so I was really excited to do it. And of course it's great, and we'll get to a reptile amphibian house, I'm sure, in the future. But these trees look great, the foliage right here. I wanted to limit this right here. I wanted them to only look at these angles back here and not on this main drag. So if you're on this main drag, you'd want to go inside right there, but it looks like the trees are not deterring the guests from looking at the tortoises through there. But here is the Aldabra tortoise side. Let's check out the Galapagos tortoise side over here. And ooh, I forgot to put plants in these planters. That's on the list of things to do in the zoo. So there'll be plants over here in the future. It'll look a little nicer. But over here we have the Galapagos tortoise, a little more lush than the Aldabra side. I also added this dead tree here. I think that looks really nice. So it's a nice touch for out here. And look, all these guys are outside now, so that's nice. And a little more rock work over on this side. I know I didn't show maybe all of the terrain vegetation, like habitat work for this side, because I didn't want to make the video too long, but we're looking at it now. It just looks great. It's just a nice little area. And you know, you don't need big fences, big high dollar anything. You just need these little like courtesy fences. Hey, don't jump over. The tortoises like a little place, like little fences like that. They're not going to get over it. They're not agile, and they're going to jump over it. So it's a nice, quaint, charming enclosure for these two tortoises. And I'm really happy with the result of the tortoise house. And if you guys enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments if you like stuff like this, and we can do more of it for sure. But yeah, let's hop out of first person here. We're inside of here, and let's take a look from the camera view here. Nice little shot of the front right there. I think it looks great. It's a cute little quaint thing right next to the education center. I put a lot of seating out here for you know, if people are waiting for an event at the education center, something like that. I thought that would be pretty realistic and practical as well. It's not necessarily for the tortoises, even though the tortoises are super cool to watch. It's not really needed. But this is a nice, cute little build here. And I think it elevates the zoo a lot. I've added some more vegetation foliage here, of course, so I've sort of finished up this area for the most part. I added the signs on each side of the tortoise house, so it tells you what's next. The bear walk's going to be that way, or whatever it's called. We're going to put the great apes up here, I've decided, and to be announced. I'm thinking potentially, if not the reptile house is going to be somewhere about here, like by this tortoise house, or we're gonna do something small again. Maybe the Chinese pangolin, something of that nature. We might start off the bear walk with the red panda bear, because you know, you could kind of call them a bear. The red panda bear, because they're small and they'll take up not a lot of space. But I love this build, looks great. And so this will be a small enclosure of some sort we're gonna put here, if not the reptile house. I don't know if I want to do the reptile house yet right here, because I kind of want to do a big build for that, add the crocs in there, and you know, the Komodo dragon, stuff like that, along with the exhibits. So I don't necessarily want to do the reptile house just yet, but we're gonna put some small ones here. We're gonna make this area nice and lush, flesh it out, of course. And then we'll move back over here and we'll just bounce around like this all the time. But I'm itching to get some bears in the zoo, so we might step over and do the first bear here. Definitely down this way we're gonna have a big bear area. Might do the bison again like we did in Timber Gorge. That was a really fun enclosure to do, so maybe think about that. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of Ranger Park Zoo. If you did, please show me down in the comments section. Let me know what you liked about it, if you want to see more like this. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. We post weekly here, a lot of fun zoo content, and we're really growing our community, and it's been a lot of fun to do, and I'm really excited for the future of this park and this build, and even future builds or future other zoos that we might do and projects that we might go down. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know, and I will see you guys in the next episode of Ranger Park Zoo.